We'll wing it. Hey everyone, how you doing tonight? It's Kristi, and if she will stand up, you'll be able to see. There she is, right here. It's Eschie. Come here, give us a kiss. She will. Eventually, she'll come over here. And not just me and Eschie. We also are joined by my co-host Kevin Logan. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
Extraordinarily well, thank you for asking. And how are you in Eschie?
Oh, we are at the end of a week, so that's good. And it's very cold out, so it was a very brisk walk. But now we're back inside, and she's had her dinner and her treat. I like to do a little game where I take her treat and I cut it up into little pieces, and then I make she goes to bed, and then I hide the pieces around the flat, and then I go, okay, and she has to go sniff them and find them all out. She likes that game a lot.
That is actually very, very cute. I can't add anything to that. Usually, I like to add a sarcastic or sardonic remark to the end of something because I'm a bitter, jaded old fool. But that's just a beautiful thing.
It's like I'm being a dog's babysitter, so we got to play games. And yeah, I got her a toy earlier today too, because yeah, there weren't enough toys for me, so I got more toys. Anyway, we should stop talking about the dog, although the dog will be here for the whole show. And we've got a couple topics that we wanted to chat about in the happy hour. So first, happy hour to everybody. And I didn't prep anything smart in advance of this one. Kevin, I'm putting you on the spot. Did you have anything smart you wanted to add to anything? But pub quiz. So how about sports? How about a piece of sports trivia for our pub quiz training? There's always cricket questions.
Well, yeah, I suppose a piece of sports trivia that happened this week, a piece of sporting history, was that I've forgotten her fucking name. Oh, that's really annoying. The British skeleton rider, the female, was the first ever British Olympian to defend a gold medal ever in the Winter Olympics.
Yeah. Congrats to her.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. 2 gold medals. Britain doesn't win medals at the Olympics because it's always kind of cold, but it's never very cold. And so we don't really do anything. We don't have mountains as such. We have slight bumps in the land. So we don't. The Winter Olympics is not for us. So to have a double gold medal, winnest. Oh, fuck off, Kev. It's really
winningest. The winningest, right? Wasn't that the word you were hating on?
Yeah, winningest.
The winningest British Olympian.
Yes, I believe she is. Yeah.
In a row.
Yeah. It's really annoying that I can't remember her name. Lizzie Yarndale. There we go. Fucking hell. Off the top of my head.
There we go.
So there's a bit of trivia for you. Not that anyone gives a slightest fuck, but there we go. Should we move on?
Her name one more time.
Lizzie Yarndale.
Yarndale.
Yeah.
Okay, remember that for your pub quizzes.
A lovely old English name. Anyhow,
yeah, let's move
on to Milo Yiannopoulos.
Milo, yeah.
Yeah.
You dropped out.
Okay.
Oh, you're back again.
Pardon?
Dropped out, but you're back.
I'm back. Okay. Well, thank you, internet service provider, for being shit as usual. Yes, Milo Yiannopoulos. We just passed the 1-year anniversary of his book getting cancelled. In fact, actually, I might have the now wonderful Facebook message you said, which was just, they cancelled my book, as the screenshot for my mirror of this on my channel, because that screenshot will never not be funny to me. Literally never.
Evergreen. That one.
Yeah, absolutely. So he then took them to court, which was hilarious. For people who don't know, I put out a video in December because as part of the lawsuit against Simon and Schuster, who were the book publishers, who cancelled his book, which he then released independently or with another publisher. I don't know. I don't really care. It flopped. Which again will never not be funny to me. Anyway, Simon and Schuster, he took Simon and Schuster to court, and they released some absolutely brilliant excerpts of the publisher's notes that were given to him for revisions on the book, including the brilliant, "This is not a sentence." Imagine that. Imagine as an editor, you having to write to an author, "This is not a sentence." That's the bare minimum you expect of an author, is to be able to write in sentences. And Milo Yiannopoulos does not have a 100% record on that. That's ridiculous.
That's very well said.
Hello?
Yeah, that's very well said.
Yes. Sorry, because I'm not getting any. You're not getting any feedback. You can. I don't know if
No. You can turn it up.
Anyhow, yes. So, Milo Yiannopoulos took them to court. They released all this stuff, and basically, he was trying to sue them for $10 million, which was never ever going to happen. But essentially, the court case has been dropped.
Well, first, again, didn't his lawyer leave the case, and he ended up doing it like pro se?
Yes, well, indeed. I'm now gonna get to that. I just wanted to outline the brief sort of story of it, and then take you through some of the court transcripts, because as Kristi alluded to there, his firm of lawyers, whose name I did have and seem to have lost. Anyway, it's a firm of lawyers in New York. Backed out. They said that there was an irrevocable breakdown in the pair's relationship, and so he decided to go pro se, like you say, to be his own lawyer. It didn't go well. It really, really did not go fucking well. Milo Yiannopoulos, not understanding the very, very basics, and usually being able to sort of gab his way out of any situation by going, "Oh, I like black cock," and laughing it off. That doesn't really fly in a courtroom. The court shut him the fuck down as soon as he started making himself a fool. Here we go, right. Quote. This is quote Milo. "It seems to me I'm going to represent myself. There is no reason why I should not be given access to the documents that are absolutely essential in order for me to properly access my own case," unquote. The court. "That's not going to happen," unquote. Mr. Yiannopoulos. Okay. Mr. Yiannopoulos. Okay. The court. "That's not going to happen." There's then like a back and forth. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's a back and forth in which Milo desperately tries again and again to get access to these documents, which, for those who don't know, they were financial documents from Simon & Schuster that had been agreed that were for attorneys' eyes only. Now, Milo didn't seem to understand that just because he became his own attorney doesn't mean he then gets those attorney privileges. You have to write to the court specifically and order a separate hearing at which that would be heard. But he just thought because he's stepping in as his own lawyer, that would be fine. Again, he's a piece of shit chancer who is usually able to chuckle his way out of a situation. But in a courtroom, there are actual rules, and the lawyers in the court know those rules, and Milo didn't.
Yeah, he lives in the world of entertainment.
Brilliantly, he's so fucking desperate at one point. He literally asks the court for help in his case, which is ridiculous. They're literally the arbiter. They're not there to help either side. Anyway, he says, quote, "Mr. Yiannopoulos, would the court be willing to offer me some assistance in renegotiating?" The court replies, "I'm sorry," which is brilliant. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. He's literally begging the court to help him. The court then says, the court, getting quite exasperated at this point, says, quote, "Look, you've made the decision to proceed pro se. The practice in this court is that if you have discovery disputes," basically that means he wants access to the documents, discovery disputes, you write a letter to the court identifying the concerns that you have about the state of discovery. Opposing counsel responds to that letter, and then we have a conference in which we discuss the merits of the dispute relating to discovery. Insofar as today's proceedings, the only thing that is before us is the counsel's request to withdraw, which you don't oppose, and the defendants don't oppose. Now it is granted on consent. It goes on for a bit, basically explaining the rules very briefly to Milo Yiannopoulos. He then says, Milo says, "Thank you, Your Honour." The court says, "All right, that is the order of the court." Basically, Milo Yiannopoulos desperately trying to get hold of that information, and the court literally having to explain to him bit by bit that he's not entitled to that information unless he goes through this proceeding, which he didn't understand because he's just a chancer. He literally just wants the access to those court documents, and he doesn't know any of the rules for any of the proceedings. And it's brilliant to see, like I say, essentially a second-hand car salesman trying to bluff his way out in a courtroom, which isn't really possible. And that's hilarious, to the point where now, yeah, the court case has been dropped, unsurprisingly. I mean, Simon & Schuster, just for PR reasons, probably won't sue him for costs, but it seems relatively frivolous to me, and they probably would have a case if they wanted to.
You know, Milo has operated in the world of entertainment where there aren't real consequences. There's just some bad press and then it blows over. And he's used to being sort of coddled and treated special, as if he is special. So when he gets in front of the court and he's just this, dumbass who is trying to go pro se and is floundering, like the court, as you said, is an arbiter. They're not there to take a side or help one person more than the other. So there's like, you're an idiot. You're just being an idiot. You're wasting our time. And that seemed like what, like that is the order of the court, was like, this is it, we're done. Like, this is the one thing that's on the docket. Everybody's in agreement. I'm fine with it too. I order it. We're over. Like, go away. Exactly. Go read up on what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's that brilliant moment where the court says, "I'm sorry," and that's actually a question. That isn't like they're apologising. They're literally just flabbergasted that a fucking an attorney, which he's acting as an attorney. He's not really an attorney, but the pro se attorney would dare to ask for help from the court. No.
Can I? What jurisdiction? Was this a British jurisdiction or an American one?
This is in America, yeah.
Because that even just makes it more funny, because I could see a Brit, a judge going, "I'm sorry," in a very British way, but for an American judge, like, how dumbfounded they must have been.
Exactly, yeah. He was so flabbergasted that he turned an American judge into some sort of Hugh Grant character. "I'm sorry? What on earth are you talking about, you blonde-haired fool?"
Then it starts raining in the courtroom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then that's brilliant. It's so fantastic to see these. Like you say, he's used to just being able to get out of a situation with what people think passes as charm. He isn't actually charming. He's a fucking horrible person. But he's usually able to get out of it, like you say, with a bit of bad press, and it blows over. But in a courtroom, they'll say, "No, that you're not entitled to this information," or "No, that's not what's being discussed here."
He had to be a grown-up. Didn't do very well.
Exactly. Well, we've seen with your debate with Carl, when you get into an actual serious discussion with any of these people, it's very easy to back them into a corner they can't just run away at that point, because it's like a formal, actual structure to it. And it's even better when they've got the weight of law behind them as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a nice bit of Schadenfreude, frankly. It's been wonderful to see Milo's career collapse to the point where now he's flogging fucking vitamin supplements, which are absolutely worthless and basically give you expensive piss at the end of the day. That's what he's going to do with it. On InfoWars. Yeah, he's now working for Alex Jones. Imagine that. Imagine being given all of the life advantages this man has had. He had a private school education here in England. He was given Mummy and Daddy bought his way into Oxford. He was then set up with a cushy job at the Telegraph, which is a daily broadsheet newspaper here in Britain, which he then got fired from, as he does with all of his jobs. He started up several media ventures. He managed to piggyback on the back of Gamergate and all the rest of it. And so, given all of the head starts in life that he was given, he's ended up flogging fucking vitamin tablets and pushing conspiracy theories about dead children on InfoWars. His parents must think, what a waste of money, what a fucking embarrassment. That is a private education utterly pissed up the wall.
Now, what I'm about to say is not meant to evoke empathy. It's more in a literary sense. But Milo is a tragic figure in that he's the kind of person whose the characteristics that made him famous also destroyed him. That there is a pathology to that sort of character and charisma and willingness to say anything and to be outrageous and to push the boundaries. That is what got him his fame. And then it's exactly what brought him down.
Yeah, there is absolutely, yeah, I quite agree with you. Yeah, there is an absolute tragedy to it, yes. It's partly his self-destructive tendencies, isn't it? It's that, it's the pushing of the barriers, pushing of boundaries that he seems to get off on and seems to have made him famous. It was also that brought him down with the whole pedophilia thing, where, lest we forget, he advocated that middle-aged men should be allowed to fuck children.
And lest we forget that it was the podcast where he was reacting to your video with the drunken peasants that was brought to the attention of people in the conservative movement that started the bricks, the
Yes.
wall, it all collapsed.
You're very kind. Yes, thank you. And a shout out should go, of course, as always, when that gets raised, to Eric Blair, the SJW 101, the political gamer, who you should all subscribe to. Not that he does many videos nowadays, unfortunately, but
those two your videos together.
Yeah, he alerted me to the original clips from the Rogan podcast, and the one that I made my video about. But the one thing that annoyed me with that is that they cut with the actual interview with the drunken peasants where they react to my video. If they'd just played it on for a few seconds longer, we would have got to the absolute crux of the matter, which was I asked the question when I played the clip of Milo Yiannopoulos saying that he filleted a middle-aged man when he was a child, a middle-aged man who was a Catholic priest, and said that was an important part of gay relationships, blah blah blah, which is incredibly homophobic and promoting pedophilia. So a double whammy of bigotry. Well done, Milo. But I asked the I think rather pertinent question: if you think it was okay for you as I think he said a 14-year-old to give a head to a 28-year-old, 29-year-old man, I think he said, would he, as a man who was then I believe 29 or 30, would he be okay with a 14-year-old sucking his dick?
Oof.
And I'd like to have heard Milo's reaction to that question, because I think it's very pertinent as to whether he has walked the walk instead of just talking the talk, so to speak. In which case, and I then asked the question follow-up to that is, if he has, and if he would, then would he mind handing himself into the local police station because he's a fucking criminal?
Did they play it past it in the episode, or did the episode they stop it entirely at that point?
They stopped it, which is, to be fair, I don't think they did that on purpose. The drunken peasants, which I don't think actually exists anymore. I don't think they do those anymore.
No,
they always cut the video relatively short. So essentially, once they've had their they've got their reaction they want for entertainment purposes, they move on to like another video or another story. So I don't think they did it on purpose, and clearly, given the reaction that it got in the end, you could say they were right in a way. They did definitely get the big reaction they wanted. But if they just played it on a little bit longer, we'd have gotten to the absolute crux of the matter as to whether Milo Yiannopoulos actually really does support pedophilia, or whether this was just, well, I mean, clearly he did or does or whatever, but we would have really gotten to the very nub of the matter as to whether he actually is a fucking pedophile. Which, if that came out as a story, would you be remotely surprised? I wouldn't.
Yeah, I really wish I'm really wondering if they didn't just tactically decide to cut it, like that they had watched it beforehand and knew not to play that part, or if it was really just spontaneous.
Given the content of it already, I can't imagine that that would have been a consideration, particularly because they basically put the main claim to him and had that discussion and elicited from him the reactions which eventually ended his career, basically, which was that he was okay with intergenerational relationships. I mean, that's the crux. When was it Paul Ziegler, I believe his name is, he goes by on YouTube, asks him the question, we're talking about intergenerational relationships, and Milo Yiannopoulos says yes. Well, that's undeniable then. That's what you're saying, you know? So I don't think they did. I'm loath to give any of those guys the benefit of the doubt, but on this one I will. I think they were genuinely just following the usual format of that show and moved on, rather than tactically cut it exactly there, because they got the reaction they wanted and they moved on. That's what they do, or did. But anyway, that's to steal an old Spike Milligan joke about Hitler. That was Milo Yiannopoulos and my role in his downfall.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't read that, you should definitely do the Spike Milligan book, Hitler and My Role in His Downfall, which is essentially a kind of comic look at his Spike Milligan's role. Spike Milligan's a old British comedian, by the way. His time during the Second World War, he served in North Africa. Anyway, but yeah, and actually, whilst we're on the topic of Spike Milligan, his fantastic joke, which actually is on his gravestone, which was, "I told you I was ill." A fantastic joke to go out on, and they actually put it on his gravestone, which is nice. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but that's Milo Yiannopoulos dealt with.
Yeah.
You wanted to bring up, oh God, apparently atheists, being an atheist doesn't necessarily make you a great person.
Right. This is the coverage. I know I saw it in Pathos, from that blog site, that basically accusations against Lawrence Krauss and his inappropriate behavior with women in basically a sexual harassment sort of way. Basically, they've been out and circulating, and people have known about this. This isn't a surprise, but it's sort of gotten some attention of late. And because it's gotten this attention, and it might have been reported one place else, like BuzzFeed or something. Sorry, I was walking the dog. I didn't do prep before that show.
Yeah, yes,
but there are.
It was in BuzzFeed as well, yeah.
Right. But there has been apparently the atheist community has not greeted these accusations by really questioning, the sort of the situation and looking at the credibility of, everybody who's been speaking up or looking at patterns of behavior. There seems to be a lot of pushback that this is crap. And basically it's a sort of pre-Me Too reaction. That was the problem in the atheist community and has been identified. And women like Stephanie Zvan in particular have been at the forefront of talking about these issues. Steve Shives is also someone who on his channel has talked about this problem. And what I tweeted out today was just, the whole idea of atheists saying that atheists can be good without God while this kind of crap goes on just shows that they're hypocrites. You have to deal with these kinds of moral crises in your communities. You can't just push them to the side and claim moral superiority over Christians who do the same thing. You have to walk the walk, and you have to hold yourself to the standards that you are very easily applying to people of religion. And the atheist leadership, the male leadership in the atheist community, the people who are the most popular, in my view, have not done enough to step up and to help address this problem. It's basically been, we'll put in codes at conferences to make people feel safe grudgingly, but not, there are other men in the atheist community who've had accusations made against them, and they're still tolerated. So this is a real moral crisis that was, brought up of late, and it's just been a matter of time before Me Too hit the atheist community in this way.
Yes, well, absolutely. Yeah. I think that the point you raise about them lording over other religious people, they do obviously. The only time you ever hear these people, and when I say these people, the people who have reacted with immediate super skepticism about these accusations. The only time you ever hear them bring up like women's issues or whatever is in the context of, oh well, it says this horrible thing about women in the Bible,
right?
Or, have you seen the way they treat women in Saudi Arabia, so on and so forth? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you do have to hold yourself to those same standards. Sure, you have to say, okay, in our community, how are women treated? And if women are treated this appallingly, as it seems to be, I mean, he's not been convicted of anything, but it seems to be the case. And behind the scenes, there are a number of issues that I think point towards these being true. The fact that 2 universities have banned, albeit in a soft ban, they haven't come out and said specifically this isn't going to be allowed, but internal documents have been discovered showing, and I'm trying to find the names of the 2 universities in the article. I can't. There we go. Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland and the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics in Ontario have both banned him because of inappropriate sexual behaviour towards people who work there. It suggests to me that he has a history of treating women in a very, very poor manner. And if you're only going to point it out when other groups that you don't like are doing it, but not hold yourself to the same moral and ethical standards that you would hope those other people react to, then you're a fucking hypocrite and you're disgusting to me. Yes. And like you say, whilst a great many of the people, and I don't want to name anyone by name, but I think you know the kind of people I'm talking about, the male leadership, as it were, not that they're put in an actual position of leadership necessarily, but the male leadership of the movement atheism, for want of a better phrase, have not done enough at all to speak out about this specifically or more generally. When we had the whole elevator gate nonsense a few years back now, they were basically happy to just bumble along with that for the most part. Very few people spoke out about it in a positive way, and most of them basically tried to sweep it under the carpet because they want that cushy little circuit of speaking gigs that helps them, earn a living, which is fine in a way, but that can't be at the expense of morality. It seems to me. If you're going to alienate half of humankind, you can't really call yourself a humanist. It seems to me.
Right. One of the things that I think is really important about Me Too is that what we're seeing is when women come forward and tell their stories, and the stories aggregate up to this pattern of behavior. Because so often it's one person who, for whatever reason, he or she more likely decides that I have to say something about this, I'm going to go public. They get called a liar, they get called a gold digger, their reputations are trashed. And so other women or men, but usually women, who see this and have been in that same situation with that same person don't speak up. But since Me Too, it's women are finding support, and men, but usually women, in these situations to come forward. And that means that when one person comes forward, another person feels safe to also tell her story or his story. And that adds up, means you start to see the pattern. You learn these things like the being not allowed at certain physics departments at universities because of alleged behavior. And when it's, again, safe for people to talk about their experiences without being trashed in the media, we identify people who have patterns of sexual predators. And it might not be in terms of being a rapist, but he certainly is out there and has an established pattern of violating women's personal space and coming on to them aggressively in ways that they didn't consent to, invite, or feel comfortable with. And he doesn't seem to take the hint or learn. That's the thing about predators, is that they keep doing the same thing. There's a reason why the Harvey Weinstein stories all had a ring of similarity. It's because they have their comfort zones, they have their patterns, they have their types. And that's what a sexual predator is. And so, when one is identified, even if it's just someone who sexually harasses women, I'm saying just in terms of a sexual a predator, a rapist, but still in terms of doing harm and violating people. And, that's something that we can't accept and just brush off. Yeah. And I think that's what's the real sea change, is that it's not immediately jumping to, well, innocent until proven guilty. It's are the claims credible? And listen to both sides first. Don't just jump to a conclusion.
Well, exactly, and I think the way I've seen that works in terms of assessing the credibility is, like you say, is the patterns of behaviour, and indeed the reactions from those around them on the ground, so to speak. So when, say, with Roy Moore, the guy who lost in Alabama, who I think we can all safely say is a fucking pedophile. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Although, again, he hasn't been convicted, but he really ought to be. The fact that the local police, the local sheriff, they call it obviously in America, decided that when Roy Moore as a judge was going to a local school, that a police officer would escort Mr. Moore around the premises in order to try and stop him from harassing the young girls. Now, I'm not on the ground in Alabama. That guy is. That guy knew that Roy Moore had a history of, let's say, very inappropriate behaviour towards young girls, to the point where he allocated some of his undoubtedly stretched resources to escorting a judge around a school because he couldn't be trusted not to have sexual contact with the children there. That suggests to me that guy's a fucking pedophile. Okay, I'm not just believing the victim, although you should, in general, listen to what these victims have to say, of course. But in terms of assessing the credibility of them, that seems very fucking credible to me. And with Lawrence Krauss, whilst he hasn't been accused of rape, as you say, the fact that these institutions have banned him from their premises, or certainly won't be inviting him to their premises, even if it's not a formal ban as such. Like I say, they have internal emails from administration staff saying that he's not welcome at their institutions. suggests to me that those people on the ground with personal experience of interactions with Lawrence Krauss know that he has a pattern of behaviour towards their staff which is inappropriate. That suggests to me that these are very credible accusations.
Yep. And people should take them on board.
Absolutely. But
if people bring him to your campus, you're like, dude, that guy, I don't really know if you want him on our campus.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I think future atheist conferences should really take all of this into account and not invite them. And of course, the reactionary nature of so many of the movement atheists has shown again why I mean, I'm an atheist, but why I can't associate myself with that kind of movement atheism type group, and of course that just being an atheist does not make you a moral person or a more moral person than a religious person, because just look at the way in which the fucking dregs of our community, as it were, have come out and basically said, oh no, they're lying about him, Lawrence Krauss is awesome, because they agree with him about God. I mean, what? Ridiculous.
No, it's true. People are willing to throw away some of their values if one of their heroes, it's the truth that's important, not the person.
Yeah, exactly. And as someone points out in the chat, Michael Shermer, another atheist bigwig, is very much part of the same pattern of behaviour and is also a predator. So,
how are things going in the chat, by the way? Hi everyone. I've got the camera tilted so you can see Eschie, not me. So hello.
Yeah, it's fine. People generally saying good things. Not too much by the way of trolling, which I think, is that a good thing or a bad? I mean, generally it's a good thing, but does that mean that
they lost interest and moved on?
Yeah, we're not having the impact we once were. I don't know. But yeah, that's just people in the just people agreeing generally. Oh yeah, and fuck you to the chat. I have to get that in at some point during every stream.
It's a staple now. It's your catchphrase.
As it's popped into my head, I might as well say it now. We know that the happy hours have been hosted on Kristi's channel exclusively so far. That's because my main channel has had a strike on it, which expires on, I believe, Tuesday, which is also ironically my 3-year anniversary of making videos here on YouTube. So I might do a 3-year anniversary stream or something.
Get out of jail happy anniversary stream.
Well, exactly. Assuming it doesn't the actual strike doesn't run out at 5 minutes to midnight or something. Maybe I'll still do one then as well. Who knows? Anyway. So the next episode of this will probably be on my channel, and trust me, the abuse of the chat there will be significantly worse because it's my chat, and I'm never nice to them because I'm a terrible person. No, just it's with love. It's with love. But yeah, so the next stream will be on my channel. So go and subscribe there, and to my people, go and subscribe here because there'll be some element of back and forth at some point in terms of who's hosting and when.
Yes.
But yeah.
We'll be going back and forth more often now that Kevin's back in rotation.
Indeed. So anyway,
then,
we also wanted to bring up, I mentioned it in our private chat, organising this thing. Oh, and that's another thing. Yeah, the organisation for my hosted episodes will be much worse. So get used to that. Yes, Donald Trump. How could we not mention the orange fucking idiot? Besides his absurd nonsense about arming teachers, which Kristi and I discussed with Michael Rowlands in a hangout, which is an absurd idea. He also mentioned that around the whole gun control debate that it was violent video games that were the problem and that something needed to be done about them because they were warping people's minds. Now, the Gamergate crowd, for those who don't know, were around a few years ago and basically said that Anita Sarkeesian, and the only reason you've ever heard of her is because the Gamergate crowd harassed her to the point where it became international news. They said that she was horrible and terrible because she gave pretty mild critiques, it has to be said, of video games. They said it's her attempt at censorship and blah, 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 blah. And those very same people supported Donald Trump. And surprisingly, they've been rather silent about Donald Trump, saying much, much worse things. And the kicker to all of that, of course, is they set up a whole movement in order to harass Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn for their mild critiques of video games, and they have no power whatsoever, whereas Donald Trump has said outrightly that something needs to change and these games are warping their mind, and dumb from those very same people. I wonder why. Because they're Trump hacks? They're Trump shills? Yes. Yes, it fucking is.
And unlike when Anita says it, which she's expressing an opinion, Donald Trump as the president has the power to be making policy, or at least working with, trying to get Congress to do something like this. So yeah, I mean, the idea that they're not going to criticize a person who could actually do something about the laws, but they will criticize a woman who wants to basically try to influence game developers to have more diverse characters and storylines. That's where their priorities are.
Yeah, exactly. Ridiculous. And of course, Trump cannot say anything without showing how fucking ignorant of the situation he is. Said that video games need some sort of rating system, which they already have. It's called the PEGI system, isn't it? By which you get rated based on the content of the games. So the thing he's proposed as a potential solution is already there. What an idiot.
Well, that's the best solution there is, right?
Yeah, exactly. And not just that, but it just shows, once again, he cannot say anything about any policy area without revealing what an ignorant prick he is. Really fascinating stuff. Yeah, I did, I think it's worth mentioning, talk to our mutual bestie, our bestie buddy chum, Carl Swindon Akkad Sargon thereof.
What? When did you talk to him?
No. I talked to him.
Oh, yeah, you talked to him.
He was our mutual bestie. That was the link, the segue, is it? Yeah, I talked to him in a private Facebook. We have a private Facebook connection, as it were, to his personal account, not to the Sargon Akkad fan page or anything.
Frenemies.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and because he said it to me on Facebook because he was harassing my friends. So I got him to promise on, I think it was in Andy Warski's room, that he wouldn't harass any of my friends on Facebook, and I would unblock him and we could talk about whatever. And so I contacted him with this story and said, "Are you going to be speaking out about this?" And at first he said, "Oh, I don't know what's happened. What did he say?" And then I linked him to the story, and he seemed actually genuinely a little bit annoyed. And so I said, "Are you going to make a video about this?" And he said, "I will be speaking out about this, but first I want to finish a video I'm doing, a big video about Venezuela." So yeah, he's got his priorities sorted. This guy, he's going to do a video about Venezuela.
Is this part of the liberalist agenda? Is to talk about Venezuela because that's so relevant to modern Britain?
Yeah, presumably. Well, that's the thing. Actually, talking about its relevance to modern Britain, I remember during the evening of the Brexit vote. Well, all of 20 fucking months ago now, I listened to a brief moment of Carl's stream about it, which I then appeared on much later after the actual announcement of the results and all the rest of it. But before the announcement of the results, as it was sort of coming in, the results, I switched on and they were talking about Venezuela in a stream about Brexit. And I just thought that sums them up. They're just so ridiculous. So, yeah, I'm going to wait and see what Carl says about this whole thing. Because he, obviously, as one of the Gamergate ringleaders, was furious, absolutely furious that the utterly powerless woman and the WOMs on the internet were daring to say things he didn't like, and set up well, he didn't set it up as such, but he was part of the force behind the Gamergate movement. And so yeah, surely he's going to have to start another movement to stop the actually very powerful man who, I say man, vaguely humanoid thing called Trump, who actually has the power to affect these things.
Yes, not just express opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Surely. Otherwise, all I can surmise is that it wasn't ever about ethics in video game journalism. Ugh. Not that I need that to be confirmed.
Trump was his boy. He tried to say it didn't endorse him when he could.
We did. We've got the receipts, motherfucker. We know.
Yeah.
We've seen your fucking Trump shilling. So yeah, fuck you. You backed the wrong horse, and it's been beautiful to see Trump's very, very mild suggestion that he might introduce background checks and possibly not allowing bump stocks to be sold and all the rest of it. Very, very mild gun reforms have sent the libertarians, quote unquote, who supported him into apoplectic rage. He lied to us. Oh, what an evil monster. He hates the Second Amendment, blah, 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 blah. Which I love when a Second Amendment advocate calls themselves a libertarian. Well, hang on a minute. You don't like the government at all. So why are you supporting a piece of government legislation like the Second Amendment, you twat?
It is the sorry, I had a point and then you kept talking and then I listened to you and I followed your point and I forgot mine. But I think it had to do. Yeah, that happens sometimes.
I'm the thought killer. That's the thing. I kill. It's better than killing dreams, I suppose, but I can do that too.
Conversations and thought determination.
Indeed.
So yeah, Trump. Oh, that was it. I remember now.
Right.
It was. I was thinking about when Trump was saying this stuff like, "Oh, we should raise the minimum age of buying these assault weapons to 21, like it is, for like handguns." And well, I know in Florida, Rick Scott's introducing that, or eliminate bump stocks, or enhance background checks. And in the same way that people said, only Nixon could go to China. Only Trump could just sort of like go, hey, let's just raise the minimum wage for this one, and let's ban this kind of accessory to guns. And if Obama had done that, can you imagine Fox News? If Obama had, yeah,
they're becoming, but that's true of so much of what Trump is. Imagine if Barack Obama, who I believe is black, if I remember correctly, if he had 3 wives and cheated on all of them and had multiple baby mamas, so to speak, and had an affair with a porn star and paid to silence her, and all of this, and backed a fucking child for Senate and all that. Just imagine if he'd done any of those things. I mean, they were going crazy about fucking about him being a Kenyan Muslim, which he never was. Like, they had to make shit up about him. He was squeaky fucking clean in terms of his personal life, and yet they still hated him. It's almost as if that might be. You go on.
He is biracial.
Oh, okay. Well, my memory serves me incorrectly. Then he's biracial.
Well, no, I mean, this is it. Like he he's a black man, but his mother is white, or was white. She died. But yeah, you said I want to be precise on this, jokingly, and then I went, oh, but technically.
Yeah, okay. Technically, yes. Let's put it this way: he wouldn't be getting into the ethno state. I don't think.
Oh no, he wouldn't get into golf clubs in some places in the 70s. I'm sure.
He wouldn't get into the GOP. Yeah. Imagine if he'd done any of those things, they'd be ripping him to pieces. Whereas, the evangelicals are all like, oh, well, it's fine because God forgives.
Mulligan.
They didn't say that about Barack Obama. They were lynching him in effigy for daring to be black and powerful,
It's amazing how sinners are forgiven, but liberals are condemned. Conservatives are forgiven. I should say conservative sinners are forgiven. Liberal sinners are condemned forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, guilty until proven conservative, yeah.
I mean, do you see anyone criticizing Melania for staying with a man who cheats on her?
Well, exactly, yes. Yeah, but whereas Hillary Clinton was lambasted. Even though, and that's the thing, the evangelical support of Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton shows that they're not interested in family values in the slightest. She stuck by her cheating fucking husband, who has a pattern of fortunate sexual conduct, let's say. She stayed with him for the good of their marriage and for the good of their daughter. Actual family values, right? Whereas Donald Trump, like I say, has had multiple wives, cheated on all of them, had sex with porn stars, paid to cover it up, is fine with grabbing vaginas randomly, is essentially a serial sex offender, and yet they supported him. I'm sorry, they never ever get to claim family values ever again.
No, and the NRA too, like in terms of its.
Oh well, yeah, it's worth mentioning.
Now
Did you
it's
see the?
socialism is back. So yeah,
Yes, yeah.
everything is fear mongering.
Did you see Ricky Rubio and was it Dana Loesch or however you pronounce it being fucking ripped apart at the that weird CNN town hall type thing?
I saw CNN tooting their own horn and playing clips from it. But
Yeah.
which one part were you thinking of when he said he had changed his mind, or that he was going to stay with opposing assault weapon ban, or whatever?
Well, all of it, frankly. But the brilliant moment where the young student stood up and asked him whether he would still receive, still accept donations of money from the NRA, and to watch Marco Rubio squirm, just pathetic. He refused to say no because obviously he's still going to accept their blood-soaked money. I mean, they are a death cult and they need to be stamped out, frankly. I think at this point you could make a reasonable case for them being fucking designated as a terrorist group, frankly. But even so, yeah, he the way he squirmed was beautiful to watch, and the look on his face after the whole thing suggested to me that he knows that's going to be what people remember of his career, is him being just absolutely destroyed by teenagers on live TV. Brilliant.
Asking a simple question.
Yeah. And not just that, but it raises the core point of why are you accepting money from people who support the murder of children? And that's essentially what they do.
Yeah.
Well, not just children, of course. In Las Vegas, lots of adults were slaughtered as well.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you okay with this? This is ridiculous. And of course,
the NRA is...
the Florida State Senate voted 3 interesting votes this week. Whilst some of the children who survived the slaughter at Parklands were in attendance, they voted down a Democratic bill which would have banned the sale of assault weapons. But they did pass 2 pieces of legislation, one saying that pornography was harmful to your health, and 2, they're going to have In God We Trust put up in classrooms. So, problem solved, clearly. Oh, God.
Yeah. God, guns, and glory, right? That's what Republicans are all about.
Well,
sexual repression.
Well, that's the thing.
And putting religion in schools, let you kill each other with guns.
Yeah. I can't believe people criticize Barack Obama for telling the truth when he said that there were parts of America that clung to their guns and their Bibles. That's all they do.
Because they do.
It's true. That wasn't a criticism so much as it was just an accurate sociological portrayal.
Yeah.
It was a description of large parts of hick America. It's as simple as that.
But on the positive side, one thing that I haven't seen before is that the NRA is becoming publicly shamed. Like the tactics they used against people who were whose advertising purchases from Google or something were being sold to Breitbart or sold in other like packages of internet ads, and they would notify these companies saying, "Do you know that your ads are being put on Breitbart?" Yeah. Well, there's a credit card. The official credit card of the NRA is through this bank out in, I think, maybe Nebraska. Anyway, whatever bank it was that was hosting the NRA's credit card withdrew their offer. Like they cut it off now. And there are some other business associations that are starting to dissociate themselves from the NRA. So if people on the internet can use that kind of social pressure to put pressure on advertisers, that's one way of starving them of the money that they use to buy politicians.
Well, this is one of the rare occasions where, having done slightly more research into this, I can be a bit more precise than you on a matter. Imagine that.
Good.
Yeah. It's the group you're referring to certainly on Twitter. It's called Sleeping Giants. Is an amazing organization which, like you say, contacts businesses, because that's the thing, when their advertisements get put on places like Breitbart and InfoWars, companies don't necessarily know. They just buy an advertising package from a company, and that company does the negotiations with Breitbart, and these companies randomly appear there. And so Sleeping Giants contacts these companies saying, do you know your ads are appearing on this hate site? And they've got lists of hundreds and hundreds of businesses which have now blocked Breitbart and Infowars and various other hate-fueled sites from their media buys, which is a hugely influential thing and has undoubtedly cost Breitbart and various other companies a lot of money and potentially therefore a lot of influence. Has choked off some of the avenue for hatred, which is a great thing to do. In terms of the NRA card, it's MetLife Bank are going to stop selling the NRA credit card, and there are various car and bank organisations which have cut their ties. They've severed ties with.
Oh, you dropped out a little bit. Of course, this always has to happen when we're live.
Because
oh, you're back again. Sorry. You said you dropped out a little bit ago, and it was just after the bank thing and the car thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
You mentioned.
A lot of bank and car companies have cut ties with the NRA, and the NRA have essentially become a kind of persona non grata with a lot of corporate entities who they rely on for financing and all the rest of it. A lot of those kind of corporate tie-ins are where a lot of the NRA's money comes from, and where a lot of its kind of soft power comes from as well, because the NRA gets associated with all these companies, and it gets made to look incredibly presentable and just a core part of American life, whereas it should be ostracized. And that's what's happening now, because they realize the bad publicity that comes with being associated with the NRA is enormous, and it should, because essentially partnering with the NRA is saying we don't really care about child slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
And no, what company wants that as PR?
I mean, they have just, there was a time when we didn't have weapons that were this deadly, and a society that produces people, disproportionately white men or white young men, who are attracted to this kind of this. For some reason, they become, this is something they want to emulate, or they want to somehow still step into that role. But dang it, now I forgot my point again. I'm obviously really tired. I need to start making notes.
I'm sorry, it's the common factor here is that when you have cute dogs around, you can't concentrate, Kristi. That's the problem.
That is true.
Eschie, you were a bad influence. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I shouldn't try to write anywhere near her, because I'll just keep losing my concentration.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth mentioning before we leave the absolutely amazing contribution to this whole gun debate discussion in America by those kids in Florida, who, frankly, I need to adopt them, because they are just amazing people.
I remember it now. It's that the NRA didn't used to be this extreme. Before we had school shootings and the weapons that we have that are so deadly now, and the tech. I mean, the NRA was supporting people legalizing silencers on guns, and their argument was it was safer for your ears if you can't hear the gun.
Yeah.
They want to sell products. That's all they're about. And the only way they sell their product is when people are afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's the fantastic line on some social media platform. The line, only a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun. So it sounds like someone trying to sell two guns.
Yeah, yeah. Lawrence, on The Last Word, O'Donnell, looked at the sort of proposal of arming teachers, and he said, if you look at how many teachers there are and coaches in classes, and you want to have 8 armed teachers for every institution, that would be like a basic cover sort of for a medium-sized school. That's a high school that's pretty big. You end up with a police force that's already larger than what we have in the United States from all the public schools. It's just and of course, even if, let's imagine that they did pass this and school districts were then required to have armed teachers and insure them everything, where are they going to get their guns from?
Yeah, the NRA. Yeah.
The people who fund the NRA.
Yeah, and not just that, of course, but there are a number of practical concerns with that plan. But ultimately, financially, where's that coming from? Because as a number of teachers have pointed out, you're going to spend however many billions of dollars in taxpayers' money to arm teachers, but you won't even give them enough money for school supplies. There are teachers that have to bring in their own pens and pencils for their students to use, but yet you're going to fucking spend billions on guns. The fuck?
We need a
There are some
really,
schools in
we need a
America.
really, we need a really rich pencil lobby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ridiculous. There are some schools in America that don't have proper heating for the winter, but yet you're going to fucking spend billions on guns. I mean, it's farcical. And of course, the example I used with in the hangout with you and Michael was that if Mr. So and So from the math department decides to try and track down the active shooter, the police turn up. All they know is that there's a guy with a gun in the school. They're going to shoot him dead. It's ridiculous. And there are a number of other problems with children getting access to those guns and what could happen. Criminals, I think you raised the point, didn't you? Criminals know that if there are locked cabinets full of guns at the school, well, they're going to break into the school and steal the fucking guns. Because schools aren't like, prisons. They're not locked up that securely.
Yeah, it's just basically a marketing tool to sell more guns. That's it. I mean, the practicalities don't even enter into the marketing. It's just, oh, well, if we have a problem with security in schools, we should arm teachers. Like, and not
just,
no more thought than that. No more thought than that.
And of course, they don't like to mention that the school in question in Parklands had an armed security officer who didn't go into the school, even though he heard shooting. So even if you have an armed presence on site, doesn't mean that armed presence is actually going to do anything in terms of either deterrence or in terms of actually stopping them in the act. Because it didn't on this occasion, so why would it anywhere else?
And the other thing too is the guy came to the school, from my understanding, wearing like body armor and some sort of protective headgear. You don't wear that when you teach. You're going to go up with your little handgun against a guy with an AR-15 who's wearing body armor?
Yeah.
No, that's the life is not the movies. Life is not Clint Eastwood giving it to the punks.
And there are a number of other problems with the basic argument of a good guy with a gun. Is that say the Aurora shooting in Colorado? It was in a cinema. Now the last thing you want is in a dark room for, let's say, 20% of them are armed, to just start firing into the dark. I mean, it was already a bloodbath, but that would have been a fucking massacre. Just bullets flying in every direction. Half the room would have been dead. I mean, it's so impractical, the whole scenario. And like you say, it's not about gun rights or anything. It's just about selling merch. They just want to sell product.
Yeah. End of the day, it's just about the dollars. It's just about the Benjamins.
Yep, and that's why I say they're essentially a death cult. They don't care for people. They just care for profit. So fuck them. And like I say, I think there's a reasonable case, considering they've aided and abetted terrorists in a number of ways, that they could be associated, designated as a terrorist organisation. It won't happen, but I think you could make a reasonable case for it.
And on that bombshell.
Well, that's an unfortunate pun on this occasion, really. But yeah.
Oh yeah, because of terrorism, right? Sorry, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Well, this video is definitely getting flagged down now. Brilliant.
Yes.
Just escalated terrorism.
Yeah, trying to segue out of the NRA is hard. But I don't know if you wanted to go otherwise, because it's last orders. So.
No, I'm basically, I'm done now, I think.
And then you dropped out again.
Oh, for God's sake. I basically said, I'm done. I'm finished. It's over.
Oh, I can feel, I don't know if you guys can hear it. I think I've got a cold coming on. My voice gets even deeper and a bit Kathleen Turner when I've got a sore throat.
That's quite nice. I look forward to it.
Yeah, my suffering is some other people's like, oh, I can go to sleep to that voice.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really my mild amusement / enjoyment is much more important than your physical health and well-being, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. Hey, before we go though, I want to give a little. Would you mind shouting out the names of some of the people in the chat? Just because I think it's nice when people are in the chat and they hear their names. Only people we like, obviously. No, is there any good chat people in there tonight?
Yeah, the Pascal Leroux is in there.
Pascal.
That called Kevin Logan's in there. I don't know who he is. He sounds like a right arsehole.
Like a prick.
Who else have we got? G Whistler. Hello, G.
Hey, G.
Who else have we got? There must be some other people. Surely somewhere. Andid, who's not one of the wrenches, but he's a nice person.
Hey.
Italki teacher, the Ashen Knight, is quite nice. Yeah, so there are a
Hello.
few regular
Good.
bods
Well,
around the
hey.
place.
Hey to the regulars in the pub. We see ya.
Yes, indeed. But
Pub, yeah, pub regulars.
I'm not buying you a drink. That's not happening.
What about
If you,
Eschie? You buy her a beer?
I don't give alcoholic beverages to dogs because that's very dangerous, you bastard.
Oh, I never gave my dog beer. Although I don't think she really was. I don't know. I was just trying to think if I ever.
I remember seeing drunk squirrels once. That was fun. That's
I'll
natural.
probably
They
get
weren't
lots
like,
of comments now under the video going, "You're not meant to give beer to dogs. You're gonna kill them or something." Or I'm like taking it really seriously.
why are you force feeding chocolate to Eschie? That's evil. What's wrong with you, woman?
Oh, by the way, as long as we're doing errata and people
Oh,
doing stuff in the comments, I just want to recognize that I screwed up, that the shot heard around the world was the shot at Lexington, not at the Boston Massacre. And I said that in the hangout or in the happy hour, and I wanted to make sure I got that errata out because several people brought it up to me in the comments and they were right. And I spoke off the cuff and I made a mistake.
And Tom McDonald's in the chat as well. Tom's awesome. So.
Hey, Tom. Good to see ya. Well, I'm not really seeing you, but you can see Eschie. Yeah. Everyone can see Eschie except Kevin. You're going to have to watch the chat back now just to see all the belly rubbing that happens.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't clip that bit out and put it on a loop. All right. Right. So it's time to go. All that's left to be said is that I've been Kristi. Eschie has been awesome. Kevin has been awesome. People in the chat have been awesome. People watching, you are awesome too. Thank you for your time and attention. And goodbye from me. And goodbye from Kevin. Say goodbye, Kevin.
Goodbye, Kevin.
Bye, guys.